Hi, Self-Awareness, Whose Truth? I am your host, Rose. And today we have a very special guest to kick off for the 2009, at the end of September, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Thank you very much. My name is Nathan Lucas. I'm a jazz musician. orgjazz@aol.com is where I can be reached. I've been playing live music for over 20 years. I can be found if you ever wanted to see any of my shows musically and throughout the city of New York. And I'm so happy to be here today with Miss Rose. This wonderful lady here.
Thank you.
And she's so enlightened on so many different levels, and she's actually, I've adopted her now as my spiritual mom. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Okay, the title of this show is The Miseducation and Treatment of Mankind.
Yes.
And I want you to elaborate on that whole concept based on your own experience. But before we get to that, will you please tell the audience how we met?
Well, we met through a very good friend of mine. This is a very good friend of mine's mom, and I had never had the privilege of meeting her, and I went to his barbershop. He owns a barbershop on Tremont Avenue. I think This Is It is the name of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I get my hair cut there all the time. And she happened to be there when I came in, and we fell into a conversation, and it was magic. I just couldn't believe, you know, how so many of the things that I had thought and believed, how she actually had studied so much of it and she could articulate some of those things, some of my feelings that I couldn't even articulate. And it also explained to me, or at least confirmed to me, why your son is such an intelligent man and why he's so well abreast on the things that are going on in today. So that's how we met.
Okay, thank you. So now we will go into the topic for this afternoon or morning, whatever time people is watching this show. So elaborate on your experience about the miseducation and the treatment of mankind.
Well, I like to refer to it as the miseducation and mistreatment of mankind, because it's not necessarily a color thing.
Thank you.
And saying it, I'm not saying that there's no such thing as racism. There is racism.
Yes.
But in the bigger picture, it's not just racism, because I've seen people from different races and different walks of life be equally mistreated, and definitely be denied the proper education that we should have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like to say of mankind. And really, I'm at a point in my life that I believe that if mankind doesn't do something to go and doesn't do something to promote itself and be better, then mankind will just be destroyed as a whole. So that was why I would like to say that it's not strictly about
Yes.
race, even though we acknowledge that there's racism, you know,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the world. It's not just this country either, it's throughout the world.
Thank you.
I think that at the beginning of this problem is what our children are being taught. I think that this is not something that, you know, this miseducation is not something that's happening just to adults. I think it starts now. It's inbred in our children early, through television, through music, through the radio, I would say through some of the things that they're reading, but most of our kids, they don't read. So you hardly ever see a child either, reading a book, or if it's a magazine, it's an unproductive magazine.
Or
it's
urban book about gangs,
prostitute, drugs.
Drugs.
If you see them reading at all.
Yes.
And it startled me one day. I saw a young lady on the train reading one of those urban books, and the guy next to her, he was impressed that she was reading the book. And I said, wow, that she's reading an urban book, and he's impressed that she's even reading that, which said to me that you don't even read urban books. So I don't think that we read enough. I don't think that we read enough of the right things. I don't think that the things that would help promote mankind are even put on regular television. You have very few shows, very few shows that I can actually say, well, this program is productive. Very few, and most of them are put like on cable shows like this. You have the people that the enlightened people like yourself, and that will actually have the guts, because it takes a lot of guts to do what you do, because the system could easily turn on you about even promoting self-awareness and spirituality and things like that. So it's usually hidden, and what's promoted to our children, and it's usually like the hip hop, and which promotes sex, drugs, violence, self-hatred. It promotes the hatred of women. Now, and saying that nothing is absolute. So you do have some positive artists, and you do have some rappers and some DJs that they are very intelligent, and they are really conscious, and they're aware of certain things. They usually don't get to play. They usually won't be the ones to be promoted, and they usually won't be the ones that you see on Lifestyle or Rich and Famous or MT Cribs, and you usually see the gun toters, and well, that's for a reason. That is because it's subconscious. It speaks to your children's subconscious. It tells them early in life, you have to sell drugs. You have to shoot people. You have to be a prostitute. You have to be a stripper. You have to be half naked. You have to have a $100,000 car and live in the projects. Because you look at some of these videos, there's a $100,000 car and they're in the projects. So, and in my life, I have actually known people to have $60,000, $70,000 cars that live with their mom in the projects. So, I know for a fact that this is true, and that's what it does. Now, in all fairness to hip hop, I understand where hip hop came from, because I was a child and I watched hip hop. I watched the birth of hip hop. And it started from lack of access to real music, to instruments and things like that. First, the assemblies were taken out of school, which taught children how to, when you went to assembly, you sat and you watched your peers perform. The ones who could play music, they performed. And so they taught you a sense of appreciation for music. It also kept your ear sharp to what real music sound like. Your peers would sit down and, they would play different instruments, the guitar, the piano, and it wasn't just, well, this is just black music. So a child may sit down and play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and another child maybe play a Stevie Wonder song, but it was all music, and it kept your child was used to hearing pure music, good music. And they took the assemblies out of school, then they removed the music